I'm Susan Page, Washington Bureau Chief of USA Today, and this is Capital Download. We're at the National Association of Manufacturers with the group's president, Jay Timmons. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Susan.
A comprehensive immigration bill was a big goal for the business community. It's stalled. What's been the impact on business and the U.S. economy?
Ultimately, Congress has got to come together. They have to govern, and they have to pass something, because we just simply can't let this problem fester.
You know, it was a year ago that the Senate passed a compromise immigration bill. Lots of high hopes.
And bipartisan.
And a bipartisan one. It's gone nowhere in the House. Why has it been so difficult? Who do you blame?
We're in the middle of an election year. Unfortunately, every other year is an election year, so that tends to tie things up. I think something has happened in this town, and it's not unique. I mean, it's happened many times over the course of history, where the two parties are just simply failing to govern. And at some point, the American people are going to rise up and insist that Congress does its job, that government does its job. There's a pent-up frustration, I believe, among the American people that they want to see action on not just this issue, but many, many other issues.
Well, you talk about another issue, maybe the highway bill, the Highway Trust Fund about to run out of money, run out of money in a couple weeks. There's an extension in the works, but it's a very short-term fix. Another example of a priority for the business community that is really having a lot of problems.
If Congress abrogates its responsibility for infrastructure or highway use, we simply are not going to be as competitive as a country. Our economy will suffer in the long run.
So you think about immigration stalled, the highway bill, just a short-term fix in the works, reauthorizing the Export-Import Bank in some trouble.
You're just full of good news today.
You know, these are issues important to the business community. Yes. Republican Party traditionally allied with business interests, but on these issues, the most significant opposition on all three of them has come from the GOP. What has happened there?
And over time, the business community started to ally itself, as you indicated, with just one party, because some more extreme elements were taking over the other party. We're starting to see that happen in the other party now. So both parties have extreme elements that they have to deal with that tend to be anti-business, they tend to be populist in nature.
You do see this populist strain in the Democratic Party. Elizabeth Warren would be one example of a leader of that. You see the Tea Party emerging on the Republican side with a lot of suspicion of Wall Street and big banks. So why at this point in time do you think there is this strain rising in both parties?
You know, I don't know. I think part of it is just simply because we've had an economy that sputtered along for the last 5 years, so there is frustration with how our economy is working, and so you take that. The tendency is that Americans take that out on their governments, whether it's at the federal level or the state level. But you know, I don't think it's unique to the American experience. These things have happened throughout history, and I do believe that the American people are going to demand that our elected leaders start governing again.
If this strain of populism and Tea Party Republicanism continues to hold a lot of sway, what are you concerned it would lead to? Why do you think it's of concern?
If we continue to have these, let's just call them hurdles, between the extremes of both parties that are kind of shutting down our ability to govern as a nation, we're not going to advance economically. We are going to lose investment, and we're going to lose jobs to other countries. It's really that simple. Part of that is because any business, regardless of where they are in the world, absolutely has to rely on certainty. We have no certainty in any of those issues that you've already brought up, and also on many others. So businesses here in America, or businesses, even foreign businesses that want to invest in America, need to see a sign that America can still govern itself in the future.
So what should you do about it? You said that the business community maybe made a mistake by putting all its eggs in one basket, aligning so firmly with Republicans rather than nurturing support among more moderate Democrats.
They need to be involved in the primary process. That means educating their employees that there is actually a primary election happening and what the candidates stand for, and encouraging them to get out and vote. Not telling them how to vote, obviously, but making sure that they do get out and vote in these primary elections. The primary election process has really shrunk the electorate. There's very, very few people that participate in primaries these days. So the most motivated folks tend to be on the extremes on both sides, are the ones that tend to get out and vote in those primaries.
So you think the business community should be more involved in primaries, not just general elections?
Correct.
And should the business community do more to kind of hedge its bets in terms of contributions to Democrats as well as Republicans?
Well, see, when I say primaries, I'm not just talking about Republican primaries. I'm talking about Democratic primaries as well.
And when you think about the impact of this congressional dysfunction, the political dysfunction we see in Washington, do you think it already has had an impact on the U.S. economy?
Sure.
What impact has it had?
Well, we're sputtering along. There are pockets of growth, but it is not growth and it is not economic opportunity that is shared broadly by all Americans. If we didn't have the uncertainty that we have, created not only by Congress, but by the administration through its regulatory process, I'm very confident we would have had more investment by business, which would have led to more jobs and more opportunities for Americans. It also would have led to investments by foreign companies that would like to create facilities here in this country and create jobs in America. When I travel around the country and I talk to CEOs, there is a reluctance to really invest in America right now because of this fear that we are not capable of governing in the current situation.
And when you say that to House Republicans, what do they say? Because you can look at an issue like immigration, and it's clear that House Republicans have been the problem in moving ahead. And that's true on some of these other issues as well.
Once this election is over, I also have high hopes that Congress is going to see the path forward on several issues.
Now, you're a former executive director of the National Republican Senatorial Committee, so you know something about Senate elections. Do you think Republicans are going to get control of the Senate in November?
Clearly, everybody's talking about the Republicans having the opportunity to. Math looks to be on their side, but math has come up short on many occasions in the past.
So if Republicans do win control of the Senate, you say you see the possibility for some additional bipartisan compromise.
I think the election will be a clarifier, regardless of who wins. And my hope is that our elected leadership will sit down and say, look, we've got to do something about moving the American economy forward. And that means working together.
A clarifier, how do you think this midterm election could act as a clarifier?
I think when folks go home in August in particular, or when they go home in October for the election cycle, they're going to hear a lot from the American people about how frustrated they are with the process, how frustrated they are with things not getting done, how frustrated they are with not only the other party but the party that they support. So when elected leaders or when candidates start hearing that, then I think there's going to be a clarification at caucus meetings when they return after the election about actually getting something done. I think that the leadership of the House and the Senate is going to hear from members of the caucus, look, we've got to do things a little bit differently moving forward.
Jay Timmons, thanks for joining us on Capitol Download.
Thank you very much.